A million old soldiers will fade away, but a dream goes on forever. I'm left standing here.
Let's do a brief version of this. I'll catch you up on where we're at now. Little kid, way back when, 51, 52, something like that. So it's a long time ago, babies. You know, there's been some water under the bridge since then, you know. But this kid is with his mama. They take a little train ride to Salt Lake City, which is a beautiful place to the kid. And, you know, of course, they got to go tour the temple grounds and do all that, because his mama's a square Mormon lady, man. As right as rain, man. And Fitz Mormon is her, you know what I mean? And she's damn proud of it, too. So the church is everything, you know, as we're beginning to see in our young days, of course, because they're force-feeding a lot of it on you, and you're already starting to regurgitate a bit, you know, because it just doesn't fit. But Mama does, and you love your mama, and she's wearing this beautiful long mink coat, you know. It's just rocking, man, you know, like, wow. Right down to her ankles, you know, or below her ankles, because that was the fashionable way to be back then. A lady showed her ankles, she was getting horny, and you better watch out, you know. Things were pretty conservative, black and white back in those days, you know. So if you had to play around, you had to do it way in the background, not let anybody see, you know. And my suspicions of the memories here had something to do with those lines at one time. Let me tell you the story here. We came from the temple grounds on a little tour, and then catty corner from that is this great big old department store called ZCMI, which is several stories high. You know, my mother likes to shop there when we're in Salt Lake City. So we go in there to shop, and she's looking at new dresses and stuff, and the little kid's rubbing on her coat, you know, little 4-year-old kid rubbing on her coat, just loving it, man. It's all soft and furry, and Mama's all soft and furry, and everything's just happiness, you know. And suddenly out of nowhere you hear this voice, "Are you lost, little boy?" And it's like, good grief. Puts a chill right into your bones. It makes you feel like you want to die, man. There's so much meanness and force behind it. And you look up, and there's the ugliest face to your young years you've ever seen in your life. The meanest face. I mean, the darkest face, too. She was all kind of shades of gray and white. You know, I mean, she was ugly, this woman. And gray, whitish hair, too, man. There's no life in her at all. And this kid was just chilled to the bone because she hated every little bit of him. And she wanted to eat him alive, and he could feel it. Well, somehow this old hag drags his ass over to the manager's office, and he hears him announcing over the intercom about a lost little boy, come and get him. And he sits in that office an hour and a half, 2 hours, thank God, free of the clutches of this nasty, nasty woman, you know. But the manager's not much better. There's no life there either. And then Mama comes to get him finally after an hour and a half, 2 hours. You know, his ass is sore from sitting. His heart is so damn restless, it's unreal. And son of a gun, then all of a sudden there's Mama. And it's no big deal. It's like everybody's hunky-dory, and she just takes him by the hand, and away they go. No big greeting, no like, "Oh my God, I found my boy, thank God." None of that shit, you know. It's just like, "Oh, there you are, come on, let's go." Like that, you know. It's like, wow. You know, so something in your memory chaws at you over the years about that incident just ain't right. You know, a little boy, how in the hell is he going to go from, like, you know, rubbing on his mama's coat on one side, and all of a sudden he's rubbing on somebody else's coat, and it's covering the hide of a scaly thing that probably came from hell itself. You know, I'm sure it was created in the fiery furnace of Mercury or something. But that was the tip-off, you know, because that something was awry there. When you started to go back and search around in that area as a little older person, because you're trying to get resolution in your life now and get on with the program. So you're somewhere in your 30s maybe, you know, when all this maybe 40, maybe you're 40 years old, and you start to look back on this moment, you know. There is something not right there. Now, you've already been through a lot, and you know that in that time frame, there was definite ritual abuse, and it has been confirmed by a therapist because you did consult with one. She turned out to be a medicine woman, but that's what you would draw to yourself. That's your kind of deal, man. You're a medicine man, and you know it, and it's very visible, and it's coming forward inside of you, even as you're dying inside and giving up on life. You can't help it. The mojo's there, and the juices of it is awakening, you know. And so there's a person there that, thank God, in that time frame could be willing and able to assist you in your journey to get some peace and settlement about all of this, you know, and start to find some kind of cohesion in your life. Because you knew in your heart that if you could get past that moment, you could live, and you'd want to live. Because right then you weren't feeling too much like it. You were pretty worn out from the struggle between the light and dark forces inside of yourself, you know. It finally had, and all the hell that went with it in life. Because moments like that became not rare but commonplace, where there was big switches, all of a sudden everything beautiful, and then it wasn't so beautiful, and ugly things started to happen, and you just had to deal and go with the flow of it. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean, and try and make the best of it. You know, when the flood comes, you put your head above water and you tread water till you can grab onto something real and solid to get you back up on the bank and back up in life going again, you know. So you live like that. This incident began a whole pattern like that lasted for years and years, man. You know, shit. What a rockin' ride. Oh, my goodness. And you're laying there inside of your hide and going back there now, and you're looking at it, and you're seeing in that person. That's the tip-off right there. First off, that you could lose your mama so easily when you're hanging on to her tight. And second off, that a critter like that would be the one to come along and rescue you. No, no, no. That's way too much, you know, a Halloween-y type thing, man. I mean, it's macabre. It's like, you know, nightmares and shit. So, no, that ain't right. Something's wrong with all that situation. And the tip-off is this dark, ugly, mean-ass person that hates your guts. And you can feel it from the inside out. And you ain't done nothing. You're just a little boy hanging on to his mama's coat. You know, hanging on to his mama's apron strings, really. Because he likes being the apple of her eye. It's kind of cool, man. In fact, most of the ladies like this little boy. They're always giggling and tossing his hair and shit like that. He just can't stay away from him. You know, he's a critter already, man. So the fact that an ugly old hag, like, no, that's not his medicine. That's not his mojo. There would be, you know, Marilyn Monroe or Shirley MacLaine or somebody like that there to rescue, Patsy Cline, there to rescue you. Not some ugly old hag from hell, you know. So you're looking around down in that little sewer pit, and you already know, you've already seen the ritually induced things. You're really even beginning to question that, and you're seeing different levels of that already too, man, where it gets far more scientific and even gets way beyond what you know as mystical or psychic, way beyond that. It's like a spiritual movement that involves the whole fucking universe. You know, and there you are, a pawn in the middle of that game somehow, and there's all these energies and flows going on at this very same time that you're going through all this kind of hell, where that memory is, it's so askew that ain't right. You know it's not right. That wasn't what happened there. You know that. You know? You just don't know what else there was to it. Well, you're getting there now, man. You're softening yourself up. So you can actually go see and live it, and you have, and you are, and you understand, and you start to see a multiplicity of memories given in the same time frame. You're living 3 or 4 different levels of life in one moment. So in one moment you're up here on top of the surface here, walking along through the temple grounds and bored out of your skull, but Mama's happy, so you are too, and then you go to the store, etc. Then there's another level here, where Mama, and somehow there's a little twist in time, a warpage, something happens. There's people you don't know, men in dark suits, that reach through a curtain inside this tabernacle building we're touring, you know. They're on the temple grounds in Salt Lake City, and grabs up this little kid and takes him someplace. Mama hands him right over, you know, and it's dark at first, and then you can see you're going down long old tube-like tunnels, and that's where things happen, is down there under the ground somewhere. And, you know, now you're dealing with what really went on there, man. Now you're seeing how these memories are implanted. You remember wires being attached to your head, drugs being injected to your little ass, besides all the other horrible memories that go with it. And there's many levels of it. There's 3 or 4 levels to that experience, you see. And pretty soon you're getting now, because now we're sitting here at this age, whatever I am now, it's a little more ripe, let me tell you, 30, 40 years later. Well, it's not 40, it's 30 years later. Well, I'm not even, it's 20 years later, something like that. Anyway, I can't figure it out. It's time, man. It drives me crazy, you know. Wears you out. But we're sitting here looking at it now, you see, and it's, well, you understand now the bigger picture being served. Why this stuff would even happen to you was because you were there to even the score, to bring the entire of your own person together in the whole presence inside of a human body for the first time and forever. That was why all of this shit in this dramatic world, this 3D, was going on. But it was multidimensional at the same time. There were many, many aspects being served. And a whole lot of universal juggling going on to even allow this to happen, etc. The orchestration there you've already seen and known, and you see it's incredible. So you really don't, you don't know which one of those levels to even think might have some reality to it, because they all have a little of it to it. But at the same time, because you've been through such an experience and somehow lived to tell about it, got peace about it, you're rectified inside, you see the bigger picture being served, you understand you had to draw this gnarly side of yourself back inside of yourself. You had to trick it into invading you so that you could put it back together finally. You see, this was an energy that felt so separate from you that it wasn't you anymore. It hated you the same way that nasty, ugly woman did. You see the mystical metaphor here being lived, man. You see that there was that, and and this was what you had to bring to yourself. And of course, the only way you could allow it, or it would allow itself to be drawn in, was by being allowed to practice some real hateful shit on you as a tiny, innocent little thing, because it loves to violate the innocence. At least that's how it's seen itself. But there's some rectification of all those energies going on now. We have served to fulfill that purpose, all of us. It ain't just about one person's journey, because that's just a metaphorical representation of the entirety of life. Life had gone to its most extremes, and it had really gotten out of hand, and it needed to bring itself back together again as a cohesive, singular whole person, a collective consciousness that works in cohesion with itself as well as personally. It's incredible how this works. But without having yourself fractured and shattered as a tiny little human child in some ways, and allowing this thing to have its cruel way with you, short of killing you, well, then it inhabits you, and then you got a lifetime of putting it back together, and that's what all these repetitive cycles were about. Bringing it back up to the surface, dealing with it this way. Bringing it up back to the surface, dealing with it that way. Bringing it back up to the surface, dealing with it that way. Only you're an unknowing player in this game. You're kind of just going with the flow of it and going, what the hell? It's a wild ride, man. It's like being on a bucking bronco at the rodeo, but after a while you start to get the hang of it. After you've ate some dirt and some fence and stuff, you start to remember what it is to feel balance on a bucking horse. And you start to flow with it. You don't let yourself tighten up, you loosen up and you flow with it. And by golly, the horse starts to settle down because it feels you settling down, because you're mystically connected. It's your own life, giving you the bucking job as well as being the rider. You see, it's both sides of the same life. The same love being expressed. It's a simultaneous experience, the horse and the rider in the rodeo together. Now you see how we put it back together. We begin to understand each other. We begin to see in each other first as similar characteristics, and then, wow, that evil, awful, nasty thing is me. Son of a gun. And look how bad I've hated it and how much I've fought it over the years. And how regenerative I've become, because I could see through the lie of it. I could go through its ultimate cruelty in one way or another. Whether it was implanted in me or an actual physical 3D experience matters very little. They did it. I went through it. I allowed a whole bunch of subsequent indoctrination in cruel ways to occur for myself, because these beings thought to make me into something, or at least they wanted you to think that. To make me into something they wanted me to be, you see. And of course, somehow I resisted. I held on to that dream. I couldn't let it go. I saw this world far differently than the way I was being treated. in the background and the foreground, because in the foreground there was a whole lot of brainwashing techniques being practiced on me, a lot of social engineering, and I was conscious of it. No one around me and the other kids, a few of them, seen it, but they couldn't resist. They cave in. They didn't have the will to resist. In school, in church, it's all. Boy, you wouldn't believe the engineering and the indoctrination that goes on in that society. Yet it's so subtle, yet so visible, and such a high pressure. See, so wow, to conform and be just like everybody else and follow the program, whatever that happens to be. See, that was the pressure. That was the intensity on both sides of the fence. Give in to the ugliness that hates you and let it own you and let it eat you alive. Let it push you around. You're a gifted being and it could really use you. You're a handy son of a gun to own. A nice little slave, a nice little clone, That's what they want of you, Only you've got life. You've got love. You've got a dream that lasts forever and you cannot let it go. It's impossible. So you're a balancing act, a struggle from the word go. But damn, you made it. You got through. You learned to go with the flow. You got the horse all gentled down. And now it's turned out to be the pale horse of your own loving heart. That you've been riding all along, man, What a beautiful place this earth is to be now, And it's so nice to be liberated and knowing that, wow, that's the last time any of that kind of shit's ever going to go on. That the cycle ends here. The buck stops here. The buckaroo does too, man. And this is where we take the magic carpet right back inside our height and find the full power of creation existing there. And understand the more or less comic nature of even the darkest things that you could imagine in this reality. The innocent challenges itself to prove its own durability. And that's another element of it too that's pretty much at play there and always will be. We've shown ourselves how much we could dish out and how much we could take. The heart stretched itself beyond comprehension here. It was an exciting adventure, but akin to the most horrible roller coaster ride you could ever imagine for yourself, because this one could hurt you and kill you and take your soul presence forever, it seemed. But the reality is, we're just going through a holographic experience. We paid the money at the beginning of the ride, actually, in a relative sense, and we took the ride. And now the ride's coming out to that last long little landslide where you just kind of cruise into home plate and everything's cool. All you got to do now is breathe and stay alive. The ride's over. The journey's through. See, the little kid's been liberated, from everything, from all of it. There's no sting, no stang, no hate, no emptiness. There's feeling, there's life. The critter has arisen inside of himself and become unified as a uniform expression of life, and the divinity of separation gives way to the divinity of unity, which is the reality. The identity then is far different than it was before, yet it's the same. It's a cosmic mix of all realities, of the star energies from throughout the universe, in a singular human form. Now do you start to remember who you are and what you're all about too? You see, we play this game together, and what's realized in one then is realized in everyone. You see, if this dude can come to that much cosmic awareness of his own presence in this reality as a personal experience, but also as a part of the greater collective, understand? We live these things together. That's why you can so relate to the tale of it, you see. It's a very real thing. We live in unity, so as one, starts to understand and go with the flow a little more deeply, don't you know? Well, then you do too, quite automatically, because we're a unified person. Though each has their personal form and their beautiful asked expression, whatever that might be, and should be embraced and loved for it. You see, all of us deserve that, and then some, and so we're getting it. First off, with a heap and help of understanding conscious presence, like a warm hug of the heart from inside of ourselves, and a welcome home too. Because you're starting to see that really could be. That maybe we really do have a lot more going on for ourselves than what meets the eye here. Maybe this really is the completions of all cycles and journeys given in the frame of time. Maybe this actually is that time when everything comes together and it's all just all right. When the movie, look at the Wizard of Oz, everybody was happy. We got just what we needed. We went where we needed to be, and we're just doing all right. Thank you very much. We're off to see the wizard, man. The wizard is us, each one of us, man. You don't have to look outside anymore. But when you do, embrace the fellow wizardresses and wizarettes that you got hanging around with you, man, and you'll find yourselves getting far more powerful in the innocent love of your own creation. So you start to live it quite differently now, as a child would. You liberate yourself, then you can start to enjoy yourself, as a child. In this adult-framed person, which actually expands to become something far more expansive. You feel it going on already. And this complete transformation of your body and soul, too, of course, because the old holographic world has to give up, man. It's over with. The movie has its conclusion, man, In the beginnings, the party's on at our place down there at the Brown Derby in Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. Not really, babies. Ooh. But maybe we will. Los Angeles has been on my mind for a while here the last few days. I think it's time we go down there and pay him a little visit soon, don't you? Stand at Hollywood and Vine and declare the divine and let the angels all arise and show themselves. Maybe we should do that sometime. See, so instead of falling off into the ocean like all the rest of you cynical sons of guns thought was going to happen, California literally rises and becomes what it always has been, the living representation of the golden life, and sets the example for everybody else. And then, the whole gateway's open and everybody's free and liberated, man. How about that? What do you think? Isn't that a good vision? As good as any other. It could be L.A., it could be San Francisco. It sure as hell ain't going to be Seattle. You're too happy up there under those clouds, man. I'm just joshing with you guys. But really, this, in a metaphorical sense, this is where we are. We're California, man, and we're rising up out of the dirtiest shithole you could imagine to the most shiny, bright paradise there could ever be, man. Because we see through the illusion of the dirty shithole and what we've created there, and we embrace ourselves for it. We let go of the dynamic of bullshit and accept the heartfelt truth of the reality in which we're living. You want the reality around you to be different than what it is right now. You want to see this mass assemblage of beings in peace all across this earth. Hey, babies, the Taiwanese have set the example for us. Let's get with the dang program, man. Don't sit on the park bench no more. When you feel the call, get in the flow. Get out there and start gathering, don't you know? But, you got to be in the flow, don't you know? Yeah, and I tell you what, babies, I see, and I know you do too, a mass assemblage happening here pretty darn soon, man, where all of humanity shows its unity, shows that it's got the spunk and the spark of life, and we're not taking it anymore. We're too much alive to do that. We're not asleep anymore. You can't push us around. You can't play and manipulate us and, push our buttons here and our buttons over there and all this stuff. It's over with. We're not stupid. We're alive. And we're in overdrive as the angelic presence of love, right along with those who sought to manipulate us, and cause us such great pain and suffering and stuff, man. You bless them for it, and let's just get on with it, okay? It doesn't have to be that way no more now, does it? You see? You step outside of time, you realize that it's all divine, and it's okay. It was a worthy journey, or we would not have ever undertaken it, babies. And now here we are, the pinnacles of life, living in 3D, expiring into the expansive reality that surrounds it. It's like you stand on the top of Mount Everest, let's say, just for earthly sake, and you're looking out into the spatial reality, and it's absorbing you into itself. And you're becoming that spatial reality once again, even as standing there as a person on the peak of that existential, beautiful, magic mountain that you somehow managed to, grunt your way up in a human sort of way, man. That's an incredible experience just to be able to do that, I imagine. Wouldn't you? Stand there and become creation. And it don't matter if the wind blows you off that peak or whatever happens after that. You're alive. Your life's in everything, and man. This bodily experience is just a part of it now. It's just an extension of it, and beautifully so, and a great place to harbor and habitate and experience. Elsewise, we would never have created it this way. So guess what? The wind ain't blowing it off the mountain, because if it did, the hands of time would just grab hold of you and put you back on it. Just reverse time a bit so it didn't happen. You see? You're divinely protected. You got your own built-in autopilot, babies. You can go back there and party with the passengers and crew if you want to. It's a safe thing to do. This plane is alive. You're in communication with it, just like as if it was an extension of your heart, which it is. It's a nice little puppy dog, and it loves to be of service to you. You have to watch out when it wants to lick you, though. It can be a little weird. Oh, such is life, and the existential reality of who we truthfully be. You're seeing the merging of the worlds now, and the erosion of time finally giving itself up. We're worn down to nothing now. It really is. It's worn out, man. Time, this rubbery old thing that bounced us around so severely in our little playpen here, has finally worn down, and now it's at its expiration. So, babies, just settle back, kick back, relax, and enjoy the rest of it, because it's here for you, because we created it that way, don't you see? So I'll be back again tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. in the Mountain High, 4 a.m. in the Pacific. I think it's 11 over there in England, but our time just changed, so it might be 10 or it might be noon, I don't know. So check it out, get on one of them time conversion things, that'll tell you. And we'll be here flying with you again tomorrow morning, too.